We've seen the impact of them having a healthy meal each night. We've seen the impact of them socialising with other peers. You know, teachers have commented that they are more settled during the day as a result of that.
Like a dream come true, and it's like, I get to do some learning and spend time with my friends. So I'm like really happy for all the workers who helped us get this in our school.
After 24 years of feeding children in India, in which time we have served more than 4 billion meals, we are now really pleased that we're able to make an impact here in the UK.
I have found such joy in doing it because of the joy that I see in the children, the synergy that I see with the staff and their belief in it.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me. Can I just check? Somebody give me a shout, Radhika.
Yes, we can.
You
Hi.
can.
Yes,
Good.
we can.
Thank you. Great to see everybody. Saw the numbers clicking up there as we were watching that introductory video. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you saw a little snippet of it there, which was a promo film for our new UK programme called Hot Meals and Homework, which later on I'll say a little bit more about. But first of all, let me just say a huge thanks for taking this time out on a Monday evening to be with us and to hear a little bit about how Akshaya Patra's mission is developing in India and here in the UK. And just to celebrate the progress that we've been making together, and to allow us to express our gratitude to you, our amazing supporters, for everything you do to sustain and grow our mission. So we should be done by 8. In fact, I'm committing that we'll make sure we are, that it's no more than an hour tonight. And you'll hear just a few different voices from the Akshaya Patra mission. You'll be glad to hear it's not just me. We'll go to a few other inspiring people to hear from their perspectives about Akshaya Patra's work. And then we'll finish off towards the end of our hour tonight with a Q&A, an opportunity for you to ask any questions. You can throw any questions at me, but we also have other members of our staff team on the call who can support me in fielding anything that you would like to ask as well. So please do have a wee think about that. I think we've had a few questions sent to us in advance of tonight that we might be able to get to as well. But certainly we'll try to prioritise any that come up live on the call. So do have a think about that as we go through our various little presentations in this call tonight. This online event is termed Gratitude, because we want to show our gratitude for all the progress that's been made, but all that you do to make sure that that progress is possible. There's a spiritual quote, spiritual maxim that I love and try to live a bit by, which is, the more gratitude you have, the more beauty you'll see. The more gratitude you have, the more beauty you'll see. And I guess that's a bit like the concept of karma, isn't it? It's that kind of virtuous circle thing. If you put out gratitude into the world and your own generosity, then you see it back, magnified back at you many times over, and your life becomes more beautiful as a result. Well, certainly, I think when we who work for Akshaya Patra and are involved in this mission show gratitude for everything people do for it, then we see this mission of ours just become more and more beautiful as the years pass by. When I was thinking about the fact that we decided to call this little online event Gratitude, another quote sprang to mind, which was actually from one of the books that I read to my 2 sons. I've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they love the Winnie the Pooh books, which I'm sure some of you will have read or read to your children. But here's a quote from Winnie the Pooh on gratitude. Piglet noticed that even though he had a very small heart, it could hold a rather large amount of gratitude. Even though he had a small heart, it held a really large amount of gratitude. And I think that's just it, isn't it? It doesn't matter how small or insignificant at times we might feel in the grand scheme of things, that in our little positions, the little things that each of us do, for Akshaya Patra or in life in general, that we're capable of so much gratitude and generosity to other human beings. So it's that really that we're here to celebrate tonight. I mentioned my two sons. It's bed and bath time at the moment in my house. So if you hear any screams or splashes in the background, you'll know that it's them just getting ready for their bed, and I apologize for that in advance if you do hear it. I always say to our staff team that it's really important to recognize that we who are privileged to work for Akshaya Patra we have no ownership over it. In fact, our role is just to facilitate goodness. It's to facilitate the goodness of our supporters, but it's also to facilitate the goodness that exists in local communities to want to help their children to eat better and to make the most of their education. And so that's why it's so important for us to express our gratitude, being facilitators of the goodness as we are. I sometimes like to think about our mission as being this kind of beautiful present, which now for 24 years has just been gradually unwrapped. If you imagine this beautiful gift with a bow on top of it, really since our work began in 2000 at Bangalore, we've just each year been peeling away a different layer of wrapping paper to see an even more beautiful gift underneath as this mission grows. So really thank you for the part you play in that. So many people play a part in this mission, usually doing fairly small and simple things. You know, things like sharing a post on social media, things like photocopying a flyer and distributing it in their local community, maybe doing a bake sale or giving a talk about our work to somebody in their local community, or just telling somebody by word of mouth about our mission. And it's through all of these individual small acts that it adds up into a massive mountain of generosity, which makes our work possible. But now and again, there is somebody who supports our mission who doesn't do just a small thing, as beautiful as those small things are, but carries out a spectacular feat for Akshaya Patra. And the first person we're just going to hear from tonight, and I'm really delighted that she's live on the call, is our wonderful supporter, Prisha Tapre, who recently, well, I'm going to let her tell you what she did. She raised money for Akshaya Patra by doing something which blew my mind at least, and I couldn't imagine even thinking about doing, never mind trying to do it. So Prisha, over to you to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing for Akshaya Patra.
Hi everyone, I would start my video, but I don't think it's allowed on the call. So my name is Prisha Tarpray, thank you Daniel, and I am proud to share that I'm one of the youngest British Indians to swim the English Channel. And earlier this year, I completed this massive feat, which was both physically challenging and personally significant. Beyond this, I chose to support thank you. I chose to support Akshaya Patra as a charity because they have a special place in my heart. I deeply believe in their mission and the impact they have both on children's lives and the people around them. When I was deciding to choose a charity for my swim, I told my parents when we were looking that, okay, I have to have a charity that corresponds to India in some way because I'm from both India and the UK. So I wanted the charity to be personal because I strongly believe that any charity work you do is amazing, but it means so much more when it's personal to you or when you actually mean it. So when I found out about this charity that just appeared to drop on my lap, and I found out that it supported children from both England and India, I just knew that it was for me. And I raised just over £6,000 for this charity, and this was like a few months ago now. And I just know that since then, I haven't stopped wanting to support these children. I feel like I'm connected to these children in some way, and I just can't stop thinking about them and how much that just even £10 could save a child's life. And the fact that these people working for Akshaya Patra do this every single day, it makes me like, it links to the theme of gratitude. It makes me so thankful that I met and had the opportunity to do something as big as what they do. So I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to raise money for your charity and open it. Like, the people I met while helping this charity are so, so wonderful. I've never met such friendly people. Back onto the charity. I chose Akshaya Patra because it was definitely personal to me, and it speaks to something personal within me. Because as a teenager growing up, I've always valued the opportunities that education provides, and obviously I'm still in education. So I just think, imagine for a moment if any of you had fasted for a day, or perhaps gone to work and not been given time to have a proper meal. Just imagine you're in the shoes of a child in perhaps India or the UK. But when I think, so I fasted for a few days sometimes, but it's different because I know that when I get home, I'm guaranteed the opportunity of my favorite meal. However, for these children, it's completely different. They go home and they're not guaranteed a proper meal. And what Akshaya Patra does is gives them that meal. So children in India receive nutritious meals while attending schools. This helps them focus on their education rather than hunger, and gives them the opportunity to grow mentally, physically, while not having to worry about the food aspect. They empower children to build a better education through they empower them to build a better future through education, and that's something I really respect them for, because this charity is so, so unique. It's not like, I've never seen a charity do such unique work as this, because they help children in two aspects, and food cannot be helped without education. Education can't be helped without food. There's a quote that I sorry Daniel, I'm copying you with the quotes, but there's a quote I found, and
Sorry, so sorry to interrupt you, Prisha. Are you able to turn your video on?
okay, let me try.
Are you by any chance able to do it?
Yes.
There you are.
Ah, there you are.
So there's a quote that I found that I heard, and it's give a man food. No, it's give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, but teach a man how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. I'm not sure if anyone's heard this quote, but I think it corresponds to Akshaya Patra's mission so, so well, because what the charity does is that they give these children food, and they teach people that education and knowledge is limitless. Once you have that, you can use it for the rest of your life, but food is just something that's temporary. And I think that that's the most important bit about this charity. I also think that this charity does so much for nourishing body and mind, and the fact it just helps kids all around, like, two big countries. I don't know how, I'm so, my heart actually goes out to these people who make it happen. Also, just a few final things. Someone told me just a few days ago, I was speaking to them about this charity, and they said to me, there is no perfect time to act. There are 1,000 people, there's like millions of people in the world, billions, but only like a few of those people even think about donating to charity, or even think about a cause that they want to give. Like, if just thinking about wanting to give your money to help other people is such a generous thought, and it just shows that you care about people. But there is no right time to act. You could be in your 20s and think, okay, I'll donate to charity, but only when I have my money, when I have a stable job, when it's my birthday, or when it's like a big festival. But the truth is that there is no right time to act. You're going to keep pushing and pushing this deadline until there is no perfect time. And I thought about this when I was deciding which charity I went with, because I could have done a GoFundMe to help fund myself, but I decided to go with a charity because I knew in my mind that I've wanted to give back to the world. And I just think that you have to be appreciative, and when you have that thought, you have to seed it. You should do you should do it before the time's up, because even £10, as I said, could save a child's life. And I know you might not have a direct impact to it, but you have to put yourself in that position. And I just think that if you have the thought, that's also that, like, after you have the thought, you should do it, because there's nothing stopping you apart from yourself. That's what I said to get myself through this swim, actually. And I guess it resonates for loads of different impacts for different things around the world. So if anyone's thinking about donating, I really like it. It makes you feel like a different person. Now that I've donated, I can't stop thinking about donating again and again and again. And I feel so happy that I have donated, because I've also alongside met these wonderful, wonderful people. And if you've ever been down to the kitchen, they've got a place in Watford, you'd be introduced to their like amazing team. After you see them, you're just going to know that this is a perfect charity, and they are such wonderful people. So I just want to thank Akshaya Patra for allowing me to raise money for them, and I want to thank you guys for the work you're doing, because it truly is amazing.
Oh, thank you. That was wonderful. I mean, it's one of the things which is amazing about you, I think, is that not only have you done this amazing thing, and I'm going to just come back in a second and ask you a couple of questions about the actual feat of swimming the channel, because typical of you, you've made it very much about Akshaya Patra, which I'm delighted you have, but this was also an amazing achievement for you. So I'll just come back to that in a second. But in addition to raising thousands of pounds for our work to feed and educate more children, you're just a brilliant, articulate spokesperson for our mission. So I really just, it's so grateful to you for coming on the call tonight to do that again for us, because for everybody else's benefit listening in, Prisha got quite a bit of media coverage as part of your challenge and the BBC radio interviews and things like that, and did an amazing job of raising awareness of our work to people who've never heard about us before. So thanks, Prisha. Back to the swim. Just tell us, how grueling hard was it really in the end? I guess the answer to that is basically not grueling enough for you not to try it again. Because didn't you tell me that you're thinking maybe next time you'll try and swim there and back in the one go?
Yeah, I've been trying to convince my coach, who I think's on the call today. I've been trying to convince him to let me do a two-way. I'm not very sure he's very like, that means he has to stay on the boat for 24 hours or plus. So I'm
Oh,
not sure he feels very happy about that, but I've got good convincing skills. About the swim, I'd been training
yeah.
for it since I was 12, so I decided that I was going to swim the channel when I was 12. Some people may think that's really young, but honestly, I just don't think you're ever too young to do something or ever too old to do anything. So from 12 years old, my swims have like slowly been getting harder and harder. And I remember the start of this year, my coach was telling me what my timetable was going to look like for the channel swim. He made a whole spreadsheet, and like everything was just set out for me. And then I was looking through it on call with him, and I said, I'm gonna have to do like 3 6-hour swims, 7-hour swims, 10-hour swims. Saturday I go 6, and then Sunday come back and do 7. And at the start of this year, I thought that was totally crazy. I thought that was out of the world. Why would anyone want to do that? And then now I did my swim 11 hours, and it just shows how much someone can grow, because now I know that 6 hours, honestly, once you do it, it's not that much, because I know that that's a baseline, like that's the basics of open water swimming if you want to do long distance. And it just, like, I'm proud to see how much I've stretched myself and how much I've grown. On the day of the swim, would it be crazy if I said I was so sure I wasn't going to be able to swim on the drive there? My swim started at 2 a.m. in the morning, and my coach knows that I'm not a strong swimmer. My coach knows that I'm not a strong swimmer in the night. So when we did night training, he stuck balloons and lights on his kayak at the lake. So when we went round, I could just sight, and there was just like lights and balloons. So it was really nice of him. But on the day of the swim, I started at 2 a.m. But if you've ever been to Dover, you'd know that there's only one road leading to Dover. And on the day of my swim, it was shut. So my dad and my family, we all had to like find these little mini roads to the place where we had to go. And I tell you, that took an extra half an hour. So we were half an hour late to my actual swim. And I'm not sure if anyone knows about open water swimming or tides, but the half an hour late swim could have changed my swim for 2 hours. So I swam for 11 hours. I could have swum for like 8 or 9 hours to be total. So the first 2 hours of my swim was really bumpy and rough, but then after the sun started to rise, it was fine. Um, and then, so my swim took 11 hours, 48 minutes, and I became one of the youngest British Indian swimmers for this year and one of the youngest in the world. So
Trisha,
that was a really
honestly,
proud
just
achievement.
well done. I mean, it's beyond imagining, to be honest, for me to think about even getting in the water to swim a little bit. Never mind that. So well done, Trisha. And thank you so much for again coming on and telling us a wee bit about it tonight.
No worries. Can I just say, my
Yeah.
coach made me do a cold water swim the last weekend. It was like 5 degrees, worse than the channel swim. I'm telling you.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Thanks so much, Trisha.
Thank you for having me.
All right, all right. Please stay on, listen to the rest of it. Hopefully, you found Prisha inspiring. I think just the way she talks about our work is so inspiring, inspires me. I think the message I take away from what Prisha said there more than anything else is the time is now. If you want to do something amazing, whether it's a feat like that for yourself or to make a donation to support a mission like Akshaya Patra's, there's no point in putting it off. Get on and do it. So thanks, Prisha, for that call to action for all of us. Already, I think we've slipped behind a bit. Radhika will be a bit unhappy maybe about how I've let that go a bit slower than we intended, but we'll get back on track. Next, I just want to share from my perspective a few reflections about how Akshaya Patra's work has developed, and then we'll hear a couple of video messages after that, one coming from our CEO in India and another one from one of our great celebrity supporters. So just in terms of general updates, I guess one of the things which I often think about working in humanitarian efforts is that the world is so troubled. You don't have to look very far to see conflict in the world in places like Ukraine, the Israel-Palestine conflict, Sudan, Ethiopia, Myanmar. There's plenty of places where armed conflict is ongoing. And sometimes I think that the drama of that, and of course those are terrible situations, but they can have a tendency to make us forget grinding poverty and lack of opportunity, entrenched, disadvantaged. And that's really what continues to exist in India. Despite India becoming more and more of an economic powerhouse in the world, it's still home to the world's largest food insecure population. And so that's really what Akshaya Patra is still aiming to tackle. Our mission is as vital as ever after all these years, to do those two things that we do well. We meet a child's immediate need for nutrition by filling their empty tummies, but more than that, we attract them into the classroom where they can make the most of their education, where they can get that all-important education. And at Akshaya Patra, we firmly believe that the children who are receiving our meals today can grow up better nourished and better educated to become the men and women who will lift their communities and the country out of poverty in the long term. That's our conviction. But it's also our reality, because Akshaya Patra has now been going for 24 years. And over that time, we've been able to see amazing stories of children we once served who are now taking their place in the world in high-powered jobs or just their place in civil society in general, aided by the food that we provided and the access to education. As a reminder, it was 2000 we began, just 1,500 children back then in Bangalore. And today we're feeding 2,236,603 children every single school day. 2,236,603 every day. Such a big number. I tend to focus on the last number, so 2,236,603. That 3 at the end, I can imagine 3 children sitting in front of me. And it reminds me, when I think about it that way, that the big number is wonderful, But it's not all about the big number. It's just about the next child. Who's the next child that we're going to support? We need to raise another £15 to feed a child for a whole school year. So when I think of that 3 at the end of the big number, I sort of imagine, well, I've got 2 brothers, so we were 3 children growing up in our house. Could be us that are supported through nutrition and education. So it's amazing growth. The other way I sometimes think about it, and others will have heard me say this many times now, but is in terms of football stadiums. I'm a big football fan. And that big number in India, if you put it into Wembley Stadium in England, you're talking about 28 full Wembley stadiums. 28 full Wembley stadiums. Not even Taylor Swift could imagine selling out Wembley for 28 nights. But that would be how many it would need to be to take all the children Akshaya Patra is reaching in India. That's now across about 24,000 schools, and we're in 16 different states, 2 union territories. And we're now at 75 centralised, what we call mega kitchens, massive kitchens where we are serving our meals from, cooking our food and serving them from. In my last visit to India just a few months back, I visited Chikkajala, just north of Bangalore, where we opened and inaugurated our 75th kitchen. So it's just a story of immense growth in India, and we've still got so much more to do, so many children still to reach there. So thank you for everything you've done to help us grow to get to that level. Of course, now we also have our UK programme. Prisha mentioned our kitchen in Watford that we inaugurated during the pandemic years, really. But it's really now that the Watford kitchen in the UK is really coming into its own more and more. And what we're trying to do is take our experience from India in all of these years, across the last 24 years, and try to apply it to the UK context. To be very clear, India, the Indian programme, and the UK organisation raising funds to support the Indian programme remains our #1 priority. But the second thing we want to do is to try and develop our UK programme, which is still in an embryonic phase. But let me tell you a wee bit more about that and how it's developing. Firstly, we do a holiday hunger programme in the UK. We serve kids in London who, during the holiday weeks of the year, summer, Easter, Christmas, where they can't rely on their free school meal, we'll provide them with a meal when they attend holiday clubs. But that only takes place maybe 9-10 weeks of the year. That's why we've recently inaugurated, about 3 or 4 months ago now, we first established it, a year-round meals programme in the UK for disadvantaged children here. And it's called Hot Meals and Homework. And that's what the video at the very top of our event this evening was publicising. So let me just give you hopefully a fairly brief overview of Hot Meals and Homework. And I'll try to split it into a description of the problem we're trying to resolve in the UK, and then what our solution is. And in telling you our solution, I'll give you the who, the where, the when, the what, the why, and the how. I'll just try and go through each of those questions rapidly to try and make it clear exactly what Hot Meals and Homework is. So the problem, first of all, because I think maybe the challenge we're trying to resolve in India is better known. In the UK, despite being one of the richest countries in the world, there are 4.2 million children who are living in poverty. That's close to 30% of British children who are living in poverty. Isn't that a genuine scandal in this country of plenty that exists? So that's the immediate problem. And then beyond that, the most disadvantaged children within that 4.2 million who are impoverished have really just reduced access to good, nourishing food, and they also have greater levels of educational inequality. You might hear often in the news about the terrible attainment gap which still exists in the UK. Poorer children are many times worse off when it comes to academic progression than their better off peers. And so there's ripe possibility for Akshaya Patra to take our learnings from India and apply it to that problem here in the UK. Because we've always existed in the 24 years of Akshaya Patra's existence to remove barriers to good nutrition and barriers to greater educational opportunity for poor children. So we know that exists in a very pointed way in India, but it also exists for many, many children here in the UK as well. So our solution, our new programme, And solution is a big word, but I would emphasize it's one part of a greater solution that's required for any degree of poverty and disadvantage. You need lots of different things to play their part, but this is what Akshaya Patra wants to contribute. First of all, the who. Well, we're trying to reach school children here, just as we do in India. And we're doing that in areas in schools where free school meals eligibility is very, very high. So we're looking at schools where there's many, many children who are already partaking of free school meals during the lunchtime period. And usually we would be aiming for a school which is more than 50% free school meals eligibility. And that's a guarantee that you're working in a school with extreme disadvantage when you get above 50%. And then beyond that, we want to try and make sure we select schools where children are living in areas which are either the most deprived or the second most deprived decile in terms of the poverty indexes for the UK. So the answer to the who is school children and the most disadvantaged school children we can possibly serve. Then the where. Well, at the moment we have a kitchen in Watford, so we are serving children in Hertfordshire, around Watford, Greater London, but we've also gone as far as Nottingham, a couple of 100 miles north of Watford to date. And that's because we've got an amazing schools trust partner there who really believes in hot meals and homework and has helped us to really establish it. So that's the where: London, Hertfordshire, Nottingham. When? I mentioned that we want to reach children who are already eligible for free school meals. So they already get a meal in the midday slot. So we are not providing the midday meal here, but we're providing an additional meal in the after school setting. So what we're trying to do is provide a homework club after school, where around about 3:30, children stay on at school because they've got this powerful incentive of an additional meal, but also their teachers stay behind as well to provide additional teaching support. So the when is in the after school space. So then the what. What exactly is hot meals and homework? Well, as the name suggests, there's two kind of essential core elements to it. The first one is that Akshaya Patra does what we always do best anywhere we work in India and also here in the UK, which is providing hot, nutritious, vegetarian, freshly made meals in our kitchens. And as I said, they are part of the powerful incentive which keeps the kids on in the school post the end of their school day. So that's the first essential element. And the second is an educational element. We have teachers from the school and teaching assistants who stay on to support children with their homework, but also potentially in other education-linked settings as well. So it might be activities like games or sport or music or chess, something which is a fun, socializing, confidence-building, educational element for children. So the Hot Meals and Homework Club is the meal plus an educational element, must include homework, but might have that more fun aspect added onto it on occasion as well. And our aim really is to make sure that poorer, disadvantaged children are getting great nutrition, but also extra tuition. Extra tuition which better off children don't ever have to worry about. Getting an extra tutor if somebody is struggling with their work is so easy for somebody who is a bit better off. But if you're really disadvantaged, there's no route to that at all. So this is why we're trying to focus on the most disadvantaged kids. And we're really trying to support the literacy and numeracy of the children through that effort. So that's the what. Then there's the why. Given that most of the people on this call, I guess, will be existing Akshaya Patra supporters, I'm going to guess that the why is probably quite obvious to you, because the simplicity of our mission, good food plus access to better education, is such an easy thing to understand. It's not a hard sell. But let me just say briefly what the 5 outcomes are that we are seeking to effect with Hot Meals and Homework. The first one is around hunger and nutrition. We want to make sure that the children experience reduced hunger at school and they've got more access to healthy and nutritious food. That's number 1. Number 2 is energy and concentration. Having fed the children, we want to see them be more energized and alert, and then be able to demonstrate improved concentration on their educational elements and to show readiness, therefore, to learn. That's outcome number 2. 3, academic confidence and progression. Through the children completing their homework and getting additional tuition in the clubs, we want to see better academic progression, that's enhanced to their activities in the classroom. Outcome area 4, happiness and enjoyment. We want to really support children to have new experiences, to develop their social skills, to have a greater sense of belonging, and also to worry less about things. And our Hot Meals and Homework project, where they can come together with their peers from different age groups to enjoy time together and to enjoy food together, really contributes to that. One thing I think about a lot is that my children are able to go to dance classes and football classes and various other things. I'm constantly in my car driving them to and from them. I'm sure the parents on this call will recognise that. But I take that for granted for my children. But Hot Meals and Homework will be, for many of the kids we're feeding, their only opportunity or their first opportunity to get that extracurricular access to something that's happy and enjoyable for them in a social skills setting. And the final thing, outcome number 5, parental engagement and participation. One of the things we are trying to do with Hot Meals and Homework is to have a shared meal with parents coming into the Hot Meals and Homework Club now and again to eat with their children. And that's about trying to get parents who might not cross the threshold ordinarily into their child's school to come in and to be more informed about their schooling and about good nutrition. So that's the why. Excuse me for a second. I'm still recovering from a terrible cold, so apologies for the frog in my throat. So that's the who, the where, the when, the what, the why, and the how. And the why. I'll just give you the how list. We've got 4 schools to date in which Akshaya Patra is delivering Hot Meals and Homework Clubs. 2 of which are in Nottingham and 2 of which are now in London. And really the how of how we expand to more depends on the generosity of our supporters. So we come back to the theme of the evening, our gratitude for everybody who's donated to make the initial 4 schools that we're in possible, and to really appeal to make more people aware of Hot Meals and Homework so that we might be, like we did in India, be able to expand it to more and more kids here. And I always say to our staff team that essentially what we're doing now with Hot Meals and Homework is for the UK, like Bangalore 2000. We are in the early stages of something which is embryonic and new. I think I need to rest my voice, so we're going to do that. I'm going to get Radhika now to show you another video, and it comes from India. So we're back on the Indian side of our mission, and you're going to hear from Sridhar Venkat, who is the CEO of Akshaya Patra in India, and he's also a trustee of our organisation here in the UK as well. And bear in mind, in India, we've now served more than 4 billion meals, well on the way to 5 billion. And Sridhar has, of course, been core to that. So over to Sridhar for his message.
Hello everyone, I'm Sridhar Venkat, serving as CEO of Akshaya Patra Foundation in India. As you all know, Akshaya Patra had a very humble beginning in the Silicon Valley of East, that is Bangalore, where we started serving just 1,500 children in 5 government schools, a hot, safe, nutritious meals. Thanks to your fantastic support, today, Akshaya Patra is the world's largest not-for-profit run school meal program. Currently, we serve over 2.25 million children in over 24,000 schools across the country. This scaling up, this transformation has been made possible by the generous support of our donors who have been very, very kind in supporting our initiatives back in India. I thank each one of you based in UK and Europe for generously coming forward and donating to this cause. Akshaya Patra is focusing on 4 key areas as we move forward. 1, feeding more children. Number 2, we want to add more nutrition to the existing plate of a child. Number 3, we are focusing on advocacy for change. And number 4, we would like to strengthen Akshaya Patra as an organization. Akshaya Patra as an organization is focused on two key initiatives. One, strengthening our culture. There are 9,000 plus hunger warriors who are working every day in India and in the United Kingdom. These hunger warriors ensure that a hot, safe, nutritious meal is served to children. So we would like to strengthen this organizational culture. I define culture as our values in action. The second focus which we have is continually improving and initiatives to ensure that we continually improve our services to children. Serving a child who goes to school is not charity, it's our social responsibility. So as we look forward to our next milestone of reaching 3 million children, I sincerely request you to continue your support to this organization so that together we ensure and give wings to the dreams of children. Together we ensure that the child doesn't have to choose between food or education. It is food for education. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much to Sridhar for recording that little video for us, especially here in the UK. We'll go straight on to another video now. We had an amazing celebrity supporter of ours visit our kitchen in Watford recently, and that is the very famous, very well-known chef Sanjeev Kapoor. I'm reliably informed by every Indian or person with Indian heritage that I've spoken to Sanjeev Kapoor about that so many people grew up with his recipes, with his TV programs, and are massively inspired by him. You only, for me as a Scotsman who was less aware of Sanjeev culturally, you only have to look at his amazing social media follower counts to see the massive influence that he has in the world. Many, many millions of people hanging off his every word. And he's done so much, Sanjeev, to raise awareness of Akshaya Patra and funds in India, the USA, and now seeking to support us in the UK. So this is a little clip of Sanjeev's recent visit, his first visit to Akshaya Patra UK and our Watford kitchen.
Smells good. That's the beauty of Akshaya Patra kitchen. The way Akshaya Patra works, the mission it has to feed school-going children, give them hot, nutritious meals, and do it in such efficient way that it is one of the top not-for-profits in the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
And see, it attracted you. It did. It's just that unequal distribution of wealth that is there. And if we can share very little and we can feed everyone on this planet, why should it not be done? Why do we have to go out and tell people, please do this? I think it should happen naturally. That equilibrium should set in naturally. Maybe it will happen one day. But till then, support Akshaya Patra.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you.
What a day in my life. I'd been planning to come to Akshaya Patra, United Kingdom for years, and I have seen pictures of this place, videos of this place, But what I can say is that this place is much bigger, better than what I had seen in photos, videos, and what the picture I had in mind. So kudos to Akshaya Patra UK, Daniel and his entire team for doing this fabulous job. And what is interesting is that Akshaya Patra does phenomenal work back home in India, but to create a unique model in this country and to do this kind of pioneering work. And I'm pretty excited, particularly with hot meals and homework. What a unique way to think of giving to disadvantaged children. Give them hot meals where they can study better. The core principles of Akshaya Patra, where we make sure that the food becomes a vehicle for learning, and that's the core, that it is staying to that, but blending it in a way the needs of this part of the world. I think this is a model which can be replicated not only in this country but in many other countries also. Very, very happy, excited, and if you are seeing this video, support Akshaya Patra UK.
Yes, thanks so much to Sanjeev for coming to visit us. He has obviously lended his voice there to some great quotes in support of our mission in the UK, and so we'll be publicising those videos far and wide to try and gain new supporters for our work. I think now we're headed into the Q&A section a little bit later than planned. So if we do go a little bit over 8, do forgive me that I did promise up front that we wouldn't. But hopefully we'll not go too far over. Just want to hand over to Radhika, who's our Director of Communications, who's going to facilitate just the Q&A, because I think she's been keeping tabs on the chat.
Thank you. Thanks, Daniel. And I hope your throat is a bit rested now. We do have many questions sent over by some of our supporters, and thank you so much to all the supporters who are currently with us, which is amazing. Let's go to Dr. Shilpi's questions. She has 3 questions. The first being, what's the criteria or what is the approach you take to select schools, and how do you accept their help?
Yes, well, I'm presuming that's in relation to the UK. Well, I take it.
Hot meals and homework.
Yes, it's hot meals and homework related. Yeah, so really it's 3 criteria at the moment. The 2 I mentioned when I chatted about it: free school meals eligibility levels and relative deprivation levels, and we are trying to focus on the most deprived, or the second most deprived decile. So that's the absolute most disadvantaged school areas. The third thing is just proximity to the Watford kitchen. We need to try and make sure that we serve freshly prepared, hot, nutritious vegetarian meals in as short a cook to consumption window as possible, because that's how the meals remain fully nutritious, fully fresh, in keeping with everything Akshaya Patra wants to achieve through our food. So proximity to Watford is important. But you'll have noticed, I hope, that I mentioned we're working in Nottingham. That's 200 miles north of Watford, and we've managed to get a system in place to really serve according to our principles there. But those are the 3 things: free school meals eligibility, deprivation levels in the local area around the school, and then proximity to our existing kitchen. Maybe eventually there will be more kitchens, and then the Watford proximity will become less of a factor. And then in terms of schools wanting to work with us, so far any school that we've talked to about this have basically said, sounds brilliant, and we'd love to welcome it into our school and use it to support the numeracy and literacy of our less well-off students. So pretty much it's been an open door. The only challenge is funding. How do we get sustainable funding? And I just noticed a comment, if I can mention it, from one of our wonderful supporters, Harin, who talked about the fact that a sustainable organisation like Akshaya Patra needs not one-off support, but ideally regular donors. And I just wanted to say thanks for that, Harin, and to fully endorse it. Whether it's a big donation or even just small amounts, if you give regularly every month or every quarter, it really helps us to plan better and to be able to sustain our programs. So thanks for that comment again, Haran. And hopefully that was a good answer to the first question there. What was the second one?
Thanks, Daniel. The second one is more an offer than a question. Dr. Shilpi Bhatia has so kindly offered that with her background in children's social care in the UK and in charity organizations, how can I help at the board level and also as a volunteer, which is such a great offer and probably deserves a separate meeting with her one-to-one.
Let's do that. Let's do that. I should say, I mean, we've recently been seeking applications for new trustees for Akshaya Patra UK, so it's timely maybe to have that discussion about the board level. So let's do that offline if that's okay.
Great. And the third question, which may I jump in to respond to, because it's personal to me. She's asking, out of interest, can I ask which states in India's southern region are covered by Akshaya Patra? And coming from the south myself, I'm so pleased to say that we serve in 4 out of 5 states in South India, Dr. Bhatia. And I just pulled out the latest map. We have 10 kitchens in Andhra Pradesh, 1 large kitchen in Tamil Nadu, 1 even in Puducherry, south of Tamil Nadu, 8 kitchens in Karnataka, which is of course home state because our very first kitchen began in the year 2000 in Bangalore, and 4 kitchens in Telangana, the biggest in the world. The biggest kitchen in the world by any community or charity is in Telangana, in Kandi, which can cook up to 200,000 meals in a single cycle of 3 hours. I hope that answers your question, and we'll be very happy to facilitate either your visit or anyone else on this meeting who'd like to visit kitchens either in India during your trip or would like to visit our Watford kitchen. Please let us know and we'll be very happy to host you. Thank you.
I don't know if this will show up on camera. Oh, it's not quite. Will it? No.
Let me see if I can pull that up.
Yeah, it basically shows the in blue the spread of the states that we're in across India now, which covers vast swathes of the country. I think in the south, the only one we're not in actually is Kerala. So yes, as you say, we're in most of the places we would want to be there, and hopefully more to come.
Indeed. There are more questions coming up.
Please.
Somebody from Scotland, where you are from, Daniel, has asked, your charity admin costs used to be 10% from what I remember last. Is it still the case?
It's not like a Scottish person to want to make sure that the pennies are being treated carefully. I can say that seeing as I'm a Scotsman, that stereotype of us as a nation. Yes, we are committed to making sure that 90% of our expenditure is on our charitable activities, and that remains the case. We achieve that year after year, meaning that there will never be any more than 10% spent on fundraising costs or administration costs, however you want to put that. And you can look at on our website our annual reports, both from India but also the UK, and see the specific figures which are audited to show that we're hitting that level, the 90% promise.
Thank you, Daniel. That, of course, was a map I shared of India, which was slightly dated because, as Daniel mentioned, we've just recently launched our 75th kitchen in India's Chikkajala in Bangalore. The next question from Charu. Do you work with county or council to identify schools as they might hold detailed information on schools?
It's a good question, and the answer to that is not so far. We certainly have dialogue with local authorities, and we would love to be more intertwined with what local authorities are doing. But actually, liaising with local authorities can sometimes slow down what we're trying to achieve programmatically, I think. Especially when, for all of the English schools, there's very clear public information available on the government website about free school meals eligibility levels and other factors that I've already mentioned that we are looking for. So broadly, we're managing to create our own roadmap for expansion into new schools through that publicly available information. But we would like to become more and more intertwined with specific boroughs where they've got high degrees of poverty, where we can work more hand in hand with councils and local authorities. But at the moment, in this early stage where we've got 4 schools having hot meals and homework clubs, it's more about just school by school. And if it's about something beyond schools, it's more about schools' trusts on a broader level that we're working with, rather than the local authorities at this stage. But just to be clear, all of those 4 schools we're working in are funded still through the local authority central government settlement for education.
Thank you. Just trying to encourage more questions on the chat window, and feel free, if you'd like to ask the question directly to Daniel, feel free to turn your video on or unmute yourself and ask the question. And let me go to the next one, which has been sent earlier to us. This one says, what is your biggest challenge in the current season at Akshaya Patra UK?
What's our biggest challenge? Do you know, I hate to be a broken record, but it's the flip side of the coin to our theme of gratitude tonight, which is that when you're trying to reach more and more children, the limiting factor is always getting sustainable funding, people who are willing to give generously to make the provision of daily meals day after day after day a reality for children who are living in disadvantage. So we'd like to grow faster. You know, we would love to see Akshaya Patra, both in India and in the UK, despite our extraordinary success and growth in these last 24 years, we're always, you know, pun intended, we're hungry for more. We want to accelerate our growth and reach many more children. And, you know, it's a difficult thing to try and hold 2 almost conflicting ideas in your mind at one time, because I meant what I said earlier when I said it's not always about the big numbers. Try to focus just on the next child, you know, because sometimes it can be overwhelming to think about the scale of poverty and disadvantage. So sometimes it can be really helpful just to say, you know, £15 feeds another child in India, £5 provides 1 homework session, both teaching and meal, to a child here in the UK. That's a good enough thing to reach next. But the reality is, while we try to focus one by one like that, there is so much disadvantage and poverty. And so the more funding we get, the more support that we're able to achieve, then of course we have more resources to reach more children more rapidly. So there are many challenges in this work, many difficulties, but that one remains far and away, I think, the biggest one to overcome day to day. Because I guess the thing that we've managed to become very expert in at Akshaya Patra is our model. We know what we want to achieve. We know how to achieve it through our kitchens. We're committed to our nutrition principles, and we know how to roll that out at scale. So there's always challenges to make that as cost efficient as we possibly can, and to make sure we maintain the great standards we've set for ourselves with our food. But it's mainly the funding to provide more meals, which is crucial.
Thank you. Dr. Shiv Pandey, joining us all the way from Liverpool. Could you ask your question, please?
Thank you very much, Radhika, and good evening, Daniel.
Hi, Dr. Shiv.
I have been living in Liverpool for only 52 years. I've spent my time in the medical practice, but I still keep on doing my charity work, whichever little way I can do it. I would say that it is a high time that you start a second kitchen. And can I invite you to Liverpool to have the second kitchen? As you know, Liverpool is a very deprived city, but at the same time, a great, with its musical talent, with the sporting talent. We are at the top at the moment, as you know. Can't forget, you will never never walk alone. So I would say that, I think it's a high time. And yes, I agree with you that many times the councils, they slow down. But there are certain people in the council who can be as useful as anybody else. And I would say that Liverpool is one of the places where you should be coming, and you will be very warmly welcomed. And I put my offer to you and to the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that suggestion. Liverpool's a place close to my heart. Actually, you mentioned Liverpool being top of the league at the moment. In my last organisation, I worked with the Liverpool FC Foundation to feed more children in Africa. and the people of Liverpool were extremely generous for that initiative. But as you say, while they have generosity in Liverpool, it reminds me of Glasgow, actually, the city I live in. Glasgow and Liverpool have so much things in common. They're so generous to overseas activities, but there's so much disadvantage and poverty in those cities themselves. So I totally agree. Liverpool would be a great place for Akshaya Patra UK to expand into. The reality is that we're still trying to reach our capacity level in Watford, not because of anything other than trying to get enough funding to make sure we can sustain the meal levels day after day. Once we've done that, I would love to find a way to move further north within England as a first priority, and Liverpool would be an amazing city to take us next. So if you're, if anybody is a faith-based person, say a few prayers for us that we might one day be able to get to Liverpool and accept your warm offer, your warm invitation, Dr. Shiv.
Thanks, Daniel. Talking of prayers, Anjana Mathani, who's so dear to Akshaya Patra, she volunteers even after a cardiac surgery. She came within a month to recover, and she said the way for me to recover is to volunteer at Akshaya Patra. She starts her message to me, which is a direct message. She says, "Jai Siya Ram." That's the way she starts her message. So talking of prayers, that was quite topical. Hello, Radhika and Daniel. What would you say Akshaya Patra's next 10 years is likely to look like? What is your main goal?
Well, I mean, it's in some ways it's quite simple. We want to see our Indian program maybe within, did you say 5 or 10 years?
She said 5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years. Well, might I say that we hope the Indian program will at least double in size in that time, maybe more than that. There's certainly, lots of different projections that go around in the organization and where we might aim to get to. But certainly we would hope to see a massive expansion of our work in India, just like we've experienced in the last 5 to 10 years. In the UK, we absolutely would want to see Hot Meals and Homework really become embedded in support to disadvantaged children in the English education system, and then maybe in the other constituent parts of the UK as well, Scotland and Northern Ireland and Wales. We also here from the UK want to do a couple of other things beyond just the UK and India, which is to try and replicate fundraising territories in different countries within Europe. Because we need more funding to reach more children, we'd really like to take the messages of Akshaya Patra to many more places in Europe. We already have an amazing fundraising group that does work in Switzerland, but we'd love to see that expand and multiply to other countries, because I think the Indian diaspora is massive around the world. But just the messages of Akshaya Patra attracted me massively when I first became aware of our work years ago. It became a big thing that attracted me to learn about the mission and all of its principles. So I think that would be a good thing to see happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And then one other thing, I mentioned earlier that I worked with the Liverpool FC Foundation to feed more children in Africa. That's because my background before Akshaya Patra was being the UK chief executive of a charity who was working mainly in sub-Saharan Africa on school meals. We would like to see Akshaya Patra maybe expand to take its school feeding model elsewhere, and Africa would be an amazing continent to take it there, because you can provide really cost-efficient meals to children who are living in extreme poverty. That's quite a distant aim and dream, and I wouldn't want to undermine at all our core focus, which is number 1, India, number 2, trying to embed the UK program further. But since you asked such a great question full of ambition, I thought I'd mention that. Maybe one day we'll see Akshaya Patra on another continent as well.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm just conscious of time, and maybe we could extend this meeting for a few minutes more. Manish Miglani has 2 compliments for you before his question. Great session, Daniel. And he believes Hot Meals and Homework is a great scale-up idea across Europe and the world. The question is, and I'm scrolling up to his question, from an impact perspective, I believe in each of your 5 objectives. They are all important, but funds and bandwidth is limited. So what is your priority rank within the 5? To rephrase, if you had £100, how would you spend it in those 5 focus areas?
That's such a good question, and I'm really glad, Manish, that you clocked all 5 of those. I feel a bit bad in how I'm going to respond to this because I feel like it's in some ways dodging your question, but it's because I think it's the reality. I have worked in school meals for many, many years now, and I have seen how transformative they can be for the world's poorest children in places like Malawi and Zambia and Kenya and now in India through Akshaya Patra. And you see over many years of doing that work that all of those outcome areas that I touched upon can and are affected by the simplicity of providing one good, nourishing meal in a place of education every day. So I would say that it isn't a case of having to necessarily choose. There is definitely a ranking to them, and I would say that the prioritization that's inherent in them is the way I ordered them when I mentioned them. Hunger and nutrition, number 1, thereafter energy and concentration, thereafter academic confidence and progression, and then the 2 that are probably not less important, but more subsidiary, happiness and enjoyment, and parental engagement and participation. So that's the kind of natural prioritization and ranking. But I've seen the simple act of providing a good, hot, nourishing meal in a place of education affect all of those areas in a really transformative way over the years. So I have no reason to believe that will not be the case with hot meals and homework. I think this thing can really work here through this program as well. Hopefully, Manish, you didn't feel I did dodge the question too much there.
Thanks, Daniel. One last question before we have some very exciting news to share to our supporters about something that's starting tomorrow midday. And I'm sure many will be pleased to hear about that. The question is, how do you decide to split funds that are donated to you between India and the UK?
Well, it's quite simple, really, on that front. It's donor-led. So if you want to support the program in India, then we will absolutely make sure that we restrict your donation to India, and we will send every penny of that to our Indian colleagues to make sure it's spent on the Indian program. But if you're willing to support the UK program, or indeed you would prefer to support it, the same applies there. We've definitely, like all charities, got a preference for what we would call unrestricted funding. If you're willing to donate to Akshaya Patra UK and say, we generally believe in your organisation, we like the mission, and we support the various initiatives that you're pressing forward on, and therefore this donation is for you to put it where the need is greatest, then that can be a great help to us. It's probably another element along the lines of what Haran said earlier. We like to have recurring donations because that helps us to plan. But if you can also make them unrestricted, then it helps us to put them where the need is greatest. If I can just elaborate on that a bit, maybe one month we have phenomenal amount of donations for India and fewer for the UK. If we've got quite a lot of unrestricted income, then we're able to build up one program while continuing to make sure we restrict in the right way to the other one in that scenario. But it might be in another month, the opposite is true. We've got a lot more donations for the UK program restricted and fewer for India. And so we would want to be able to top up our Indian support through unrestricted funds. So that's what I mean by where the need is greatest. Month to month, that can shift, certainly year to year. There can be different kind of performance levels with that. But the crucial thing is, if our donors say we want to donate for that thing, we absolutely make sure it's restricted to that thing.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Daniel. And that's all we have the time for on this meeting, but doesn't mean Daniel won't answer the questions. So if you have any more questions, please drop in them via email, and we'll pick up the ones I may have left out on the chat window for an email response from Daniel. There's something so exciting happening tomorrow. It's a great opportunity for supporters who believe in a little goes a long way, and it genuinely will, because the Childhood Trust in the United Kingdom will be matching all gifts to Akshaya Patra between the dates 3rd December, which is tomorrow, until 10th December. It's only 1 week, but within this week, any donation you make to Akshaya Patra via a particular link, which we're very happy to share via email, and you will be receiving those comms from us, that communication from us. Any donation made between these dates will be doubled, which means we will reach double the number of children with that very tangible help. So please look out for that email we will be sending out to you tomorrow. And I also had a request. We're about 50 of us, and there were more just a little bit earlier. If each of us could just decide to introduce a friend, maybe a colleague, a friend, a family member, a neighbor to Akshaya Patra, and if you'd like any of us to join you during that conversation, whether it's a phone call or an e-meet or an in-person chai meeting or a coffee meeting or high chai, as we call it, the Akshaya Patra way, feel free to write to us. We'd love to do that. We love meeting people, and we'd love to have newer friends being introduced for a variety of reasons, not just for donations, but just building the Akshaya Patra family of well-wishers. So that's the second message I wanted to leave you with. The third, of course, which with so many times Daniel has alluded us to, which is the power of giving little but giving regularly. You've heard it from Daniel before. It costs only £5 to feed a child or support a child in the UK with a hot meals and homework session. And it costs only £15 to feed a child in India for one full school year. I can stick my neck out and say this is a value that very rarely even the most frugal of charities would be able to achieve. And that comes with years of wisdom and experience that Akshaya Patra has managed to learn from supporters such as yourself, from donations, including pro bono expertise from consultants and corporate organizations, which have taught us how to do things better in a cost-effective way and still not compromise on nutrition, which is so important for children who are eager to learn. So if you decide to give, please consider giving regularly, because that then helps us plan better. It's little, but it's regular income, and that's very, very useful for a charity such as ours. Well, I can keep going on with my asks, but I'll stop there given that we're slightly over, but I'll hand it back to you quickly, Daniel, for closing remarks. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Radhika. And just thank you to all of our team who contributed to making this online event possible, especially you, Radhika, and Akash and Nivi working in our comms team. I just two things I'll say just to finish off. One, can I reiterate the high chai that Radhika mentioned? If there's one thing that I would love people to do for Akshaya Patra, more than anything else, it would be just gathering together in your living room, your local temple hall, your local Rotary Club. It could be anywhere in the community, your local school. But I reiterate again, your living room, just inviting a few people round, 3 or 4 people who don't know about our work. And the high chai thing is just a great way of saying, look, this amazing thing that India has given to the world, the masala chai. Let's gather together and talk about another amazing Indian export, which is Akshaya Patra. And people, I think the high chai thing really draws people in. I'll commit to everybody on this call. If you do a high chai and you gather together as little as 3 or 4 of your friends who don't know about Akshaya Patra or family members, and you send me an invitation, I will come to that high chai if you want me there. Wherever you are in the UK, I'll come and I'll support that event, because there is nothing more important for Akshaya Patra in just more opportunities to tell our story, to share more about our mission. So I hope to be inundated with invitations on that front, and therefore the only limiting factor will be the timetable of when we can get to each of them. But please do think about that. I honestly am serious. I would love to come to different parts of the country and be involved in an Akshaya Patra High Chai. The second thing, the last thing, actually, I was going to say something along the lines of this myself, but I'm going to hand over to the words of our supporter, Surendra, who commented on the chat earlier, who said, "Let us fill up the pot of Akshaya Patra, never to be empty ever, for the good purposes outlined in the address here." And that's just another way of saying what I often say, which is, of course, Akshaya Patra, those words mean limitless pot of food or inexhaustible vessel. And the only reason that that vessel will go on being inexhaustible for kids in India or kids in the UK is for two reasons, I think. One is I'm a person of faith, so I believe that this depends on God. Whichever God you choose to believe in, I think we require that. We require some prayerfulness about our mission. But the second thing it depends on is you, our amazing supporters. It's only really because of your generosity that we can do what Surendra said. Let us fill up the pot of Akshaya Patra, never to be empty. So listen, thank you for joining us tonight, for taking the time. Sorry I didn't keep my promise to come in under 8. When I said that, Radhika probably was rolling her eyes at the time because she knew it was unlikely with me doing the presenting. But thanks a lot. And just on the line again, our theme for the evening, gratitude. Thanks so much.
Hello.
Thank you.